Thanks for being here. My name is Paul Hadfield. I'm from Spinnakers. We've been. My story is that I'm an architect and I was working in Vancouver, and life was magic in 1982, and the feds changed housing policies. And although I had an office on Granville Island in the public market building, and life was perfect living down by Jericho Beach with a place up at Whistler, changes in federal housing policy, we lost all our jobs and construction died. And along with John Mitchell, we made up Spinnakers as a job for my office to try to keep the people on the drawing boards drawing. And as they say, the rest is kind of history. I love craft beer. I love you guys for what you guys are doing and how we are changing that landscape and how we're making it so much richer. And the BC Ale Trail is an opportunity for us to share our story with each other, to share our story with people in our communities, to encourage people to travel in BC and explore the landscape and explore the offerings that all of us bring to the landscape, and for people that we partner with to take our stories and share them with the rest of the world, so that BC does become recognized for the richness and the diversity of what we've got going on here. We've got an interesting panel. To my left is a guy named Paul Kamon. Paul is the executive director of Tourism Sunshine Coast. And in the way these things work, Paul's become the lead administrator for the Ale Trail project in terms of how we're able to work with Destination BC. Paul has also worked as one of the guys behind Vancouver Beer Week, which is probably where most of you people know him from originally. Two over from Paul is Kim Hood, and Kim is from Destination BC. She works in market development for Destination BC. She manages the co-op marketing program, which the Ale Trail is part of. And prior to that, she spent time in Whistler and worked for the Chateau Whistler at one point, and worked with tourism in Squamish. So kind of like deep roots and understanding of our piece of landscape and how we fit into the whole thing. In between Kim and Paul is Melanie Ransome. Melanie is with the Number Creative, and the Number Creative has done a spectacular job in taking what we do and meshing it with what Destination BC is doing in terms of how we take brands, we take us, and we lever them into the fabric of what we take to market both provincially and out of province. Melanie was preceded by Chris Long as the lead person from the Number on our project, and today she's the one who's managing the day-to-day activities of the Ale Trail. So they're responsible for the website development and going forward the integration of a lot of what we do. And then to the far left is Tim Fry. And Tim is a guy that I had the opportunity to meet a couple of years ago. And he works for his own company called 468 Communications. He's on Lumbee Island, a little bit to the south of us. And he spent about 20 years in storytelling communications. And he brought the idea of an app to us in BC through the BC Economic Development Commission, and made a presentation there a couple of years ago. And as part of Think Local First Victoria, we had the opportunity to see the kind of work that he did, and quickly moved to endorse what he does, and brought it into what we've been doing in Victoria in Think Local First. And Think Local First meshes so much with what we do here because like we're so about local. We're about local beer here. And Tim is going to talk to us about the app, which is going live today. And for those who like to fidget, pull your phones out and go to Google Play or the App Store and download the app. It's called BC Ale Trail. And you'll get to see some of what we're talking about. To start the presentation off, we'd like to just play you a little video. And here's the story of the BC Ale Trail.
Craft breweries are typically small business, so the craft beer industry, I think, was quite ready for collaboration by default. Working together, pooling resources together created an opportunity to get the larger message out, which is British Columbia has a world-class beer scene. My name is Paul Kamon. I'm the Executive Director of Sunshine Coast Tourism, and I'm the tourism consultant and the lead administrator for the BC Ale Trail, which is one of the co-op marketing programs with Destination BC. Craft brewing in BC has quite a history. When you consider in 2010, there were 50 breweries. Now we're approaching 150 in less than 8 years. So this partnership between tourism regions, the Craft Brewers Guild, Destination BC, all started to come together in a really organic way. In my role as the marketer for this region, I decided to use some of my connections in the beer industry to start doing Sunshine Coast Ale Trail media trips. And it resulted in some articles in newspapers and various magazines. And when the opportunity to approach the cooperative marketing program was suggested, we went for it. It's easy to create great marketing when you have so many great stories to tell. And that's really the foundation of the entire program, is essentially giving voice to all these unique stories that are happening all across the province. What's unique about the BC Ale Trail is the level of collaboration and the sheer scope and size of this project. I think the leadership of Destination BC and the new cooperative marketing program, which was designed around collaboration, it just makes so much sense. That is the way forward. As an example, the Port Moody, 4 breweries on a single street, essentially collaborating together, which then created more opportunity for other businesses, ancillary businesses that surround the breweries to participate and essentially create an attraction for the city of Port Moody, which didn't exist before. But the results speak for themselves. In 3 years alone, we've managed to pool together over $1.1 million in public and private funding to market craft beer in British Columbia. That's something to be very proud of.
So, Paul, can you talk to us about the origins of the BC Ale Trail, how it came about, and like, it's a great story, and you're the perfect guy to tell it.
Thanks, Paul. Can everyone hear me okay? This thing's kind of awkward. It's all good. Short answer is that it was Jan Zeschke's vacation. It was originally a media hook. Before the program, working for Sunshine Coast Tourism, we had 2 great breweries in Persephone and Townsite Brewing. They were the talk of the coast, and it was really just pitching it to the media writers as an idea to do a coastal circle route ale trail and connecting them up with the breweries. So that's how it started in my eyes, as essentially a story. Let's be real here in that ale trails aren't novel. We didn't create the idea. There are other ale trails in Oregon and East Coast, but what is novel is the level of collaboration, the level of investment. We're approaching $1.5 million invested in the BC Ale Trail, and that is unprecedented, I think, globally. So we've got something pretty special here, and just looking You know, I've been to this conference a few years, and to see the attendance, this is amazing. You know, the revolution is on. So that's how it started. And then my colleague over here, Shauna Leung from Destination BC, just started kind of prodding me as DBC was launching the co-op program, which Kim will talk about. And really it started to fit into this idea of how do we connect communities, how do we promote touring. Essentially, that was one of the goals of the co-op program, was to get people to travel, you know, and connect the regions. And obviously with the government changing our liquor laws and creating lounge licenses, this essentially opened the door. Without lounge licenses, we won't have an ale trail. But you know, like Townsite Brewing was the biggest thing to open up in Powell River in 2012, and it was the greatest thing ever. And it, you know, essentially was acting almost like a visitor center, because there was more people going to the brewery than there was going to the visitor center. So a lot of these things kind of coalesced together and converged to create the opportunity, and here we are.
Awesome. One of the things that kind of struck me as we were looking at how to put the ale trail together was that at the beginning of the campaign, and the way this works was that each of us as breweries needed to ante up to become part of. And we needed to become members, we needed to be members of the guild, and we also needed to be members of the destination marketing organization in the region that we're in. And what I was told was that Tourism Victoria didn't want to play. And I went to Paul Nursey, who's the CEO of Tourism Victoria, and I said, you can't not play. That, let's face it, you guys have this task of going to market and trying to bring people to Victoria, and all things being equal, and it's Victoria and another destination, and you need to understand that if Victoria has great craft beer and the other destination does not, you're going to get the job. And what's happened over the last couple of years is that, and this is what really gets me excited, is that through the work, we've been able to weave craft beer into the fabric of marketing campaigns for how we take regions to market and how we explore the province. So I'm wondering, Kim, if you could talk a little bit about how Destination BC is able to use the energies and the silliness that comes from all of us out here as an opportunity to talk about what BC is all about and what the fun is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And first of all, I have to say this is the first conference I've ever been at where they start serving beer at noon and you get to have beer on your panel. So I've loved you guys from day one with this project, but I love you even more today. So thank you very much. This is fantastic. I want to hopefully provide some context. I wanted to take a little bit of a step back on our role in the province, Destination British Columbia. Hopefully many of you, that's our corporate name. Hopefully many of you are familiar with the Supernatural British Columbia brand. It's been around for a long, long time. So we are your crown corporation. That's our job is to promote tourism to British Columbia and to drive tourism revenue into the province. And a number of years ago, just prior to the launch of the co-op program that both Pauls are referring to, we undertook some brand research and really evolved the Supernatural British Columbia brand. At the same time, we were rolled back out of government and we were reestablished as a crown corporation. And industry was, first of all, very active in making that happen. But industry was telling us we needed to run our business differently and more effectively. So we really took that to heart. And we, after we relaunched or evolved the Supernatural British Columbia brand, we started looking at how we are spending our money and are we being effective. there's a slide up on the screen right now showing the tourism contribution to our province's GDP. So as I'm saying a few more things, I want you to think about the numbers that are up on that screen. The reason we like showing this slide, and I think it even still surprises people in our own industry, is tourism is second, and this is for primary resource industry. We are second only to oil and gas in the province. We're not putting this up there. Every single industry listed up there is critical to the economy of British Columbia. We highlight this because most people don't understand that that's how much tourism generates in our province and how valuable it is. A lot of people don't even realize they're in the tourism business and they're contributing to that 7.9 billion GDP annually. So just back to our role in a couple years ago, we were looking at how are we spending our budget. So we get operating money from the government every year to act as your crown corporation. And we were really taking a look at our competitive set, and we very quickly realized that we will never, ever be able to outspend our competition. So when I'm talking competition, I'm talking Australia, California, Oregon, Brand USA, Alberta, Ontario, and a few other markets. And we realized that as a strategy going forward, we need to outsmart them. And the way we outsmart them is creating programs like Co-op, where we go out to our partners in industry and say, let's pool our money, pool our resources. We are going to be far more effective. Tourism, travel and tourism, is one of the most competitive industries on the planet. There's a lot of disruption that we daily have to combat, and doing marketing, if you look at Southern California, to do marketing in there is crazy expensive, but there's also a lot of noise in the marketplace, and how do you stand out and make sure that those people are coming to British Columbia on their next vacation? And we couldn't do that the way we were previously doing business. So the Co-op program was one of many programs that we have, where we ask, there were a couple of things going on. First of all, a provincial tourism marketing organization providing marketing support to their industry is not a unique concept. Same as Paul was saying, an ale trail is not a unique concept. It's how we're doing business within that context. So we required 3 or more communities to come together. And that might sound really, really basic, but we have, 200-ish communities in the province. There are some communities that were 40 clicks apart from each other on the highway that haven't even sat in the same room together in decades to talk about tourism coming into their general area of the province, because everybody was just so used to spending their little amount of money going off and doing good things that were important to their community, but it wasn't moving the dial in terms of generating revenue in our province. And so that's where this co-op partnership program came in. We're happy to give you money, but we're going to put some pretty strict, pretty tough initially. There was a lot of apprehension in our industry because we were basically changing the way people were doing business after 20 or 30 years. And right out of the gate, this having applications like the Ale Trail came in. I think you guys had 6 communities in the first year, and we're over 20 now. And from day one, it has helped us drive revenue to the province. I think you'll see a couple of other slides throughout the afternoon with the look and feel and brand of the BC Ale Trail. Through this co-op program, we have made our brand assets. So the font is proprietary to Destination BC, but we share it with partners like the Ale Trail, because when they're out in the marketplace, we want to help raise that brand equity of British Columbia. And so these guys were very willing guinea pigs in day one, and we were very grateful that they embraced it, and that is helping. Not only is it an amazing product that is being marketed, it is helping to raise the brand equity of Supernatural British Columbia in really competitive markets.
Awesome, thank you. So why right now? What?
Is this still for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is a highly, highly competitive marketplace, and I think, 3 years ago, when I first met Paul, 3 or 4 years ago, this was a hard hard thing to get industry to do, and it really came down to the recognition that we cannot outspend our competitors, and we have to be smarter than them in the marketplace, and how we're requiring our industry to access money with us. And I should also say, we're 50% equity in the partners. A lot of government programs are grants, where an individual community will get money and they go off and do their own thing. But we're actually a 50% equity partner through all of the ones in the co-op program, and it's that competition has the creativity that is coming out in this program. Everyone is inspired. We hold, from day one, we've held the Ale Trail up as a best practice. And I think that's why it's doing so well these days.
Paul.
Thanks, Kim. I'd just like to add to that and sort of turn it back to the craft brewing industry as a whole. And we're leaders in collaboration by default. It's in our DNA to fight the man, fight the big guys. So of all the sector groups, because I do work with other sector groups like mountain biking and golf and fishing, but the craft beer industry was built for this program because it has collaboration in its DNA. So that's a big part of why it's working so well.
Awesome, thank you. Melanie. You guys have been so critical in how this is rolled out, how we've meshed this with the DBC branding to make what we do seamless as part of what goes on. I wonder if you might give us some comments on what you think we've done well and where we can go with this. Sure.
Just to move some slides around. Yeah, so I'm the project manager of the BC Ale Trail campaign. The success of the campaign, it can really be thought about in a few different ways. We have a leadership team who's very dedicated, and we have bi-weekly meetings, and the leadership team is comprised of Paul Kamon, Paul Hadfield, Joe Weeb, who's very well known in the BC craft beer sector, and then obviously Ken Beattie as well. And so just merely the fact that there's this many people who are so dedicated and focused on putting this campaign forward is a huge part of the success that we've seen. Obviously, as Kim was saying, our alignment with the Destination BC brand, that's a really big part. I've worked with some of the other co-op programs and seeing what we've been able to accomplish with the brand and using the Supernatural BC font, it does have a really huge impact. But most of all, it's really just echoing what everyone's been saying through this panel, and it's the collaboration. So we have more than 30 DMO partners at this point. We launched Northern BC this year, the Northern BC Ale Trail, which was a huge win for us. We've been trying to work on that for 3 years now since we started, and that trail alone has, I think, 7 DMO partners. It's a lot of work to get that many people working together and get them at the table and bringing funds that they can put forward to bring something like this to life. But you see the impacts when you see the final video that comes out that features all of the distinct breweries and their stories that they're telling, and it's really impactful to hear what they have to say and makes you want to go visit and try the product firsthand. So yeah, and as Paul Kamon said, we've pooled together over $1 million with these DMO partners, the brewery contributions, as well as DBC Co-op program, and we've even accessed funds from Destination Canada's Connecting America program. So yeah, it's all collaboration that has really brought us to this successful point where we can celebrate now. Yeah, and so we've now launched more than 17 ale trails all across the province. This heat map on the upper right-hand side, that demonstrates all of the breweries and ancillary businesses that we promote as a part of the BC Ale Trail campaign. If you were to look at that map 3 years ago when we first started it, it wouldn't look nearly the way it does today, but we only have a few more communities left to fill in the gaps, and we're working with all of the DMOs and the breweries to make that happen, but it's pretty spectacular to see what we've accomplished in just 3 short years. And so with each ale trail. Again, if anyone's not familiar with the campaign, I would encourage you to check out the website, follow us on Instagram, all of our social media channels. But so on the website, on a trail, you have a video promoting the breweries, the region, the activities that you can experience, like kayaking, hiking, mountain biking. But there's also an itinerary that gives you suggestions on where you can go, places that you know you'd enjoy. If you want to go try this craft beer, hey, go check out this business too, because it would definitely appeal to you. So, and with all the content that we've put out there, it's really focused on that emotional urgency, reminding people that they need to go try the product firsthand and experience it in the region, right? So that's been a pretty big win for us as well. And so we're not only just putting BC craft beer on the map, we're putting it on the map as a world-class destination. And that's just something that's important for us to reiterate because it's happening. I mean, last year we were finalists in the Canadian Tourism Awards Marketing Campaign of the Year. We were up against the Calgary Stampede and Tourism Toronto. I mean, those are some pretty heavyweights in the tourism landscape, and to think that we were the top 3 with them. We didn't win, but hey, like to be alongside them was pretty spectacular. And so we're doing the work and we're putting BC craft beer on the map at that world-class scale. And yeah, so at this point, we're really just continuing to look for ways to diversify the platform. We're getting increasing visits to the website. The awareness is growing. Again, it's the 3rd year of the campaign. And more recently, we've established a partnership with Able to get private liquor stores on our website. So just another way to diversify the platform so that tourists who are coming to explore BC can find other ways to try beer from other areas of the province. You know, if you're going to Victoria, you might want to try something from Penticton. So going to these private retailers, it's a great opportunity to try products from other regions as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. So, this is the kind of collateral that has been developed over the last 2 years. And I think it's a really important thing to understand as we talk about markups and various things that impact our industry and where our money goes, to appreciate that at this point in time we've got a partnership going with Destination BC. And government understands and appreciates and cares about what we do and how we contribute to what the fabric of BC is. And what we want to come out of here today with is an understanding of how each of us doing what we do can maximize the opportunities that come from it. It became apparent to me a year and a half ago that one of the things that we needed to do is we needed to get this into the mobile hands of the people who follow the little blue dot around the landscape and use wayfinding online as a way to get from here to there and understand what the experiential opportunities are along the way. I was really struck last fall wandering around some medieval towns in Europe where you get lost in behind and you can't find a way out, that virtually everybody was kind of like doing one of these things, trying to figure out how to get out of here. What we want to do is figure out for people how to get in to where we are. And along the way, here's some really cool things to do and to share that are part of our landscape that each of us in our own way, in our own communities, celebrate. So, looking at what we do, and it was kind of fun in a previous session this morning in terms of social media, it's very, very evident that it's all about storytelling, it's about authenticity, it's about being who we are. And when that's what we do, that's what we do well. And that's why we live where we live. And that's why people want to come and see us and share what our experiences are. So working with Fry, Tim developed an app called the 468 Insider. And what Tim is trying to do is he's trying to put together and help us with a platform that enables people to find us, that enables us to tell our stories. It's about visitor and consumer engagement, and how ultimately this translates into commerce. And so what we want to do is have everybody here understand how, as this rolls out, that we can use it to help our businesses, how we can use it to enhance visitor experiences, how we can storytell. So Tim, I wonder if you might take us into that kind of a conversation.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So there's been some discussion of storytelling so far today. And when you think about it, the best stories are stories that have a call to action, a really clear call to action. So this app is really about the call to action for the amazing story that the BCAT Trail team has told. The team's done an amazing job of raising awareness of the craft brewery industry across the province, has done an amazing job of telling the individual stories of the different regions, the different ale trails, your individual breweries. But that story needs to have, the end result needs to be that they come in and spend money in your business. I mean, that's where the magic happens, is when they show up. And so this app is really about making sure they show up. They already have a great incentive. You're a wonderful product in the community around that product that you've built. But this is about kind of taking it a step further and creating, an extra incentive for people who are out there exploring to show up. So just a quick background, I spent about 20 years in the technology marketing industry, working with a lot of big tech companies, developing a lot of technology for these devices. And I think in a lot of ways, the result of some of this technology is that it actually forces us to withdraw a little bit from our communities and from a present state. I mean, if you just look around any room, not calling anyone out, but I mean, you'll see a lot of this. And I started my company 468 Communications a few years ago to actually use the same technology to not get people kind of drawn into here, but to get people out there and really into local businesses. So that was why I created the technology. So a lot of different communities, a lot of local organizations have used it. And we have customized this technology for the BCAT Trail to really reward people for getting into your business. And so that's what this is a tool for you. So the way it works, it's a free app. It's available now, as Paul mentioned earlier, for free. We're previewing it right now in the Victoria Ale Trail, and by the end of the year, it'll be available for all 17. When you download it, if you just hit that Explore button that you see up on the home screen, it'll take you to a map of all the ale trails. Right now, you're looking at the Victoria Ale Trail, and each one of those pins represents a craft brewery. If you click on that pin, it will tell you a little story about that craft brewery. But when you physically show up, when you're there, when you're physically present, and all these wonderful devices that have GPS on them can verify where you are at any given moment, when you're there, you can start to collect points. So it's kind of a fun experience, somewhat gamified, where if you're physically at your brewery, someone's there, they can hit that collect points button and start to accumulate points in their account. So once they collect some points, for instance, if they collected their 10 points from Spinnakers and went to a few others, they start to get some points in there, get some currency that they can use. They can now return to that place of business, that brewery, and redeem those points for a reward. And so the reward locations are all of you. You can determine what that reward is. I would highly recommend that reward be tied to some kind of purchase, because the ultimate goal of this is to get people to spend money. So for instance, what you're looking at here is someone goes back into Spinnakers and says, hey, I've collected enough points. Your reward, I see, is a test flight of beers I'm going to spend my 50 points to do that. Really easy to do. You don't have to tie it into your point of sale system. Someone says, I have enough points, I'm going to redeem them. I'm going to hit that redeem points button. It brings up a keypad that you see behind me here. All you have to know is that 3-digit code to take those points off their account. Type in this case, 468. Those points come off their account in exchange for the reward that you provide. And like I said, usually that should be some kind of a purchase. So the idea here is not to give something up. The idea is to get a customer and a sale that you would not have otherwise gotten. And so it could be a free test flight of beers. It could be a discount off of merchandise. It could be a discount off of some food. The idea would be that that's an incentive for them to stick around, to not only come in, but then stick around and spend more money. So that's how it works. It's really simple. It doesn't have a ton of bells and whistles. It's all about rewarding presence and giving people an incentive to come in your door and spend some money and buy your product. So it's good for the visitors, residents. It's good for the users of the app because it's given them a really nice curated guide to all the different stories within the ale trails. It's good for you as a business because you're getting those sales that you might not have otherwise gotten. And it's also good for the ale trail overall because all that activity is trackable. And that's another wonderful thing about these little supercomputers that we all carry with us in our pockets is, when someone's out there collecting points, when they're redeeming points, that's data that's really useful to all of us collectively. Where are people coming from? Where are they spending their money? What's interesting to them? And we can make that all available to you. So not only where are people going, but where are people from? So when someone downloads this free app to create an account, they give their postal code, and that's how we get a map like this. And we can create reports that zero right into your location, so you can find out at your individual brewery where are people coming from. Between this period and this period, where are my customers from? What's interesting to them? When are they showing up? And is my reward interesting to them or not? So this is not only great as a way to kind of validate the app as a tool, but you could use it in your individual business because you can get these regular reports. You could have your own contests that say, all right, well, who are my most frequent customers? And I can reward them. So there's lots of really fun things you can do because it's a pretty powerful tool. And it really is a tool, so the BC Ale Trail has done an amazing job of telling the story, wonderful, beautiful marketing campaign to raise awareness, and we'll continue to raise awareness for tools like this. But really, if people don't know about this, it can't be a great tool. And so what we're doing is we're helping promote this. So this week in Victoria, where we're previewing the app, we went around to all the different breweries. We gave them posters. We gave them little cards to keep at their registers. We gave them talking points for all their staff to know how to talk about it. It's pretty simple. It's like, hey, download our free app. It's got a guide to all the really cool stuff in the area, including all the great breweries. Go collect some points. Come back here. We're going to give you a really cool reward. That's as simple as that. So we distributed all those things around Victoria this week. We're going to run this preview for the next couple months. By the end of the year, we'll have some really cool data that we'll share with all of you, and then we'll be ready to launch this across all 17 ale trails so that everybody in this room can use it. So that is the plan, and it's been pretty exciting, and I think it can be a really, really powerful tool for all of you.
Thank you. Just to be clear, this addition of the app to what we're doing is no cost to any of you. It's an add-on. It's a member benefit. And what we're needing to make this work is we need a rep from each of the trails who's prepared to work with the other breweries, to collaborate with the other breweries in their region, so that we can help Tim and Melanie finish the work that they need to do to bring each of these trails online on the app. And our goal is to try and get this done by the end of the year. so that by January, we're fully live across the province with this opportunity, which is then something that Kim and her team can take to market and tell everybody about. And I just think it's an amazing opportunity. And I want to thank Kim for bringing this to us, and to Kim and Mel and Paul for their contributions in helping make this happen. Does anybody have any comments, any questions, any feedback for us? Yeah. Sorry, I'm not hearing you.
How much does membership cost and how does it work?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's kind of a twofold question because so to be on an ale trail, you need to have the investment from your DMO or a consortium working together to bring those funds forward. So the cost of an initial ale trail can range anywhere from like a $5,000 investment to $15,000, just depending. So that's step one, is getting the funds to actually develop the content. You also, as a brewery, need to be a guild member. And then you also need to pay into the ale trail annually. So it's $750 the first year and then $500 every year after that. Does everyone know what a DMO is? No. Do you want to take it? Sure. Yeah. I realize that's the point.
We like our acronyms in our tourism industry. DMO stands for Destination Marketing Organization. So Tourism Whistler, Tourism Sunshine Coast, they are the organization in your community that is responsible for marketing related to bringing tourists into your community.
And to be clear, not everyone always has a DMO either. Like Port Moody is a good example of the breweries working together to build that team and put those resources together to get them on the ale trail. So if you don't have a DMO, there's definitely ways to make it happen. So I would encourage you to reach out to me or someone on our team to talk more about it if you have questions.
And I would suggest that if your DMO is not involved on this, that conversations with the DMO are appropriate. That I'm not sure that it's a lot different than where we sat in Victoria a couple of years ago, and people just haven't figured it out yet. So again, call us, call Mel, and we will help you in that regard. Chloe.
Are we going to keep updating the videos as the breweries open in regions?
The question is, are we able to get updates on videos as more breweries open?
So yes, this is absolutely something that we want to do. It is conditional upon us working with the partners to get the funding in place to do that, but we're just doing our rounds of discussions right now for the application for 2019-2020, which the application is due at the end of November, and we've had a lot of DMOs who are interested in investing additionally to get new footage and photography for the new breweries, and I am fairly sure Sunshine Coast Tourism is already, getting that underway. So,
and one of the things that we need assistance in that regard with is for people in each of the Ale Trail regions, is to talk to us about who are really good craft beer stores, who are really good craft beer bars and restaurants, that we can go to and sell them on the concept of being part of the app. By doing so, we're able to use a fee to them to be part of this amazing opportunity, and as such, we create a revenue stream that enables updates and things like that to happen without changing the base cost to us. Good question. Any more out there?
Sorry. Yeah, I just had a question relating, I guess, to content for individual breweries. I think that the BCAT trail is great. It tells a great overall story of each specific destination in a kind of a unified marketing platform. But wondering if there's opportunity for us to provide individual content to further enhance our story on each platform, not on the BCAT trail platform.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so he was just asking about providing content to enhance their story, like if they could provide, some specific content for their brewery. And the answer is yes, absolutely. Our content director, Joe Weeb, I would just have you work with him to kind of iron that out. We welcome any and all stories to bolster what you have up there and really enhance that listing. But it is important for us from a brand consistency standpoint just to have everything kind of streamlined and going through that process. But if you don't know Joe Weeb, he's super easy to work with, so I would encourage you to reach out to him or myself, and we can get you connected there and we can update the listing, no problem. It really just comes down to if you see something that seems incorrect or you want to update something, just email us. It's super easy for us to update, and we're very friendly.
And if I might just add, like any other platform, it's a matter of keeping it current, keeping it relevant. So when indeed changes take place, when cool things are happening, this is just another opportunity to get that out there. Yeah, again.
Another question. So on the BCAL Trail app, is there going to be in the future opportunity for us to put on a current product lineup so that we're able to update individuals within the area as we have new lines coming out, new beers coming out?
I think I heard the question. Is there an opportunity through the app to update on kind of latest innovations or latest product that you've brought to market? Is that the question? Yeah, I mean, the content associated with your brewery can be updated at will. So if you have something new that you want to introduce or say, your page can be dynamically updated, and you can change your reward accordingly. So you can say, hey, we brought this new product out. Maybe that becomes your reward, and so you can contact the BC Ale Trail team who's administering the app, and they can make that change at any point.
This is great.
Contacting the BCAL Trail team, I found that it's mostly the DMO that's actually directly working with the BCAL Trail team. It'd be good for them to reach out specifically to each brewery individual rep, so that there's a direct line of conversation happening, so that we can make more personal updates rather than through the specific DMO. That would be my one thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we would love to do. I think just like being the third year into the campaign, it's been a lot of workload for a small team to get this out there. We're really proud of where we've landed with that. I mean, my dream scenario would be that we could actually talk and work with each individual brewery to discuss ideas. I mean, what Paul Hadfield was saying about getting a brewery rep for the region, it's a really powerful idea. I mean, Penticton is a great example of that. Kim Lawton has been a powerhouse from that perspective, where she works directly with me to pool together funds with all of the breweries to do some really specific and distinct tactics to promote their trail specifically. So the good thing about the DBC Co-op program is that they want private sector investment. That's a really big part of what this is. And so if you're able to help us by rallying together your community, and you could spend $500 that you were already going to spend, but it becomes $1,000 through the campaign. Of course, it is dependent upon approval of the application and all of that, but Penticton's a good example of that really working. So yeah, I mean, I totally hear your feedback, and I really appreciate that. I would love to get to a point where we have the staff to be able to accommodate that one-to-one communication, because it's vital, of course, to make sure everything's as up-to-date as possible, but also just encouraging each region to maybe try and work together as a team and get one point person to reach out to us. I think we can do a lot with that.
I think this is awesome. I love this app. I think that's going to be really beneficial for us. What we are finding in our tasting rooms right now is that people don't know they're on the ale trail until we tell them, and then they go on the ale trail. And so I'm wondering if there's discussion around possibly highway signs, or what are the next steps now that we have the app.
Yeah, I think highway signs are really important. I mentioned that last night as something that I want to pursue, much the way the Wine Institute has done. To me, this is an evolution of craft beer. It's part of recognizing craft beer as an integral part of our culture. And that is a logical next step, that the highway signs are going to be, you're on the BC Ale Trail, and it's going to list how many breweries there are coming into whichever town is down the road. Yeah, I think it really matters. What I think is really cool about all this, and it kind of goes back to it's my sentiments about how we as a sector are growing, is that it's entirely collaborative. We're helping each other grow. We are collectively growing the pie. And when we acknowledge that people have made the effort to go to different breweries and places and collect points, and we say thank you by using it as an inducement to do something in our places, we're just reinforcing that collaboration. So absolutely, I think it's up to each of us where we are or with what we do to banner the notion of the Ale Trail and encourage our patrons to get out there and explore. And I think that fits into what Kim and Destination BC is all about, which is why this kind of a collaboration makes so much sense on so many different levels. Anybody else out there? I can't see the spot is like. No? Well, thank you very much for attending. I would like to acknowledge each of the individuals who've given up their time and come here and supported us. And on behalf of each of them, we're making a donation to the BC Hospitality Foundation. We can get you a t-shirt if you really need one. But we think that the Hospitality Foundation is an important cause. And so we, on behalf of all of the presenters, are making a contribution. So thank you very much.